Okay, is everyone here? Everybody's ready? My name is Brenda Boaz Pond. I work at the library here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm happy to be hosting this Lunch and Learn. I signed L3, and we are excited today to have a panel. We have 4 panelists joining us. And just a quick description. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. And that way you won't forget about them. You can document them there. We will have a Q&A at the end. Once our panelists have all spoken, you'll have that opportunity to ask the questions and hopefully get some answers. And then when that is done, we'll have a poll for everybody to take, and that will pop up, and that gives you a chance to answer the questions on the poll. I have a visual description to give you for myself. I'm a white woman. I have dirty blonde hair. I have glasses and earrings on. They're a little long. I have a necklace as well that has a dragonfly. I have a black shirt and then a gray sweater over that shirt, and my background is black. So again, I want to say thank you for joining us today. We are excited to welcome Lead K of Tennessee representatives. Those representatives are Chrissy Davis, Tracy Duncan, Jenny Parton, and Shar Scully. The 5th representative, Laura Moritz, will be presented via video. And they're here to share their insights and updates on Lead K, which stands for Language Equality and Acquisition for Deaf Kids. On January 22nd of 2026, Representative Alexander introduced the House Bill 1957, the Tennessee Council for Research of Deaf, Deafblind, and Hard of Hearing Children. And it is assigned to the Department of Health. So the point of the bill is to ensure that deaf and hard of hearing children have full language access from birth so they can thrive academically, socially. So we're going to jump right into this conversation, starting with Jenny. I'll posit the question and then you'll see Jenny's response. So Jenny, what is LEAD, L-E-A-D-K, and what problem is it trying to solve for deaf and hard of hearing children? Take it away. Hold on, we don't have her spotlit yet. Jenny is not spotlit, so the interpreter cannot see her. There we go. Okay, so she did her physical description, so she's excited to be here with LEAD. And LEAD is an initiative that specifically, as we described, is the language equality and acquisition for deaf children. It's specifically designed to develop a system that helps to prevent language deprivation for children from birth to school age. Those recognized with hearing levels also. Those who are deaf, hard of hearing, deaf-blind, unilaterally deaf, auditory neuropathy, deafness, any of those categories. The state of Tennessee does not have any statewide language evaluation and data collection program specifically for deaf children from birth to school age. So LEAD began in 2015 in California. As of 2024, we have 23 states involved with LEAD K bills. And the national goal is to get all the states to create a language evaluation system. And that system would include consistently and regularly evaluating language development milestones, monitoring each child's language learning, tracking each child's language over a long period of time, and identifying language gaps and provide immediate intervention. And all of those data points I just shared would be given to the family so that they, and that information would be specific to their child so they can make decisions about their child's journey. And that information can also be shared with the child's team. Excellent. Thank you, Jenny. The next question is to Shar. Why is early language acquisition, whether it's spoken or signed, so critical during the early years of a child's life? That early language acquisition. Take it away, Shar. Hi, I'm Shar. I have brown hair, glasses. The glasses are brown. I have a black shirt on. I don't have any jewelry, nothing like that. So that's my description. And I have a green background. So why is early language acquisition so important? Babies' brains are specifically designed to learn language. Whether, we figured that out, whether the babies can hear or not. Okay, it's the same for all babies. So all babies around the world are learning sometimes multiple, not just one, but 2 or 3 languages simultaneously. So our goal is to prevent language deprivation. I have 2 different signs for this. This is one of them for language deprivation. The other one is this. And what I use for 0 to 3 children, especially when they're at the stage if they don't really get any kind of language. And then at age 3, if parents start to learn some sign language, but then do not provide that environment. So that's why I have 2 different signs. Thank you. Thank you, Shar. This question's for Chrissy. How does LEAD K support families and schools in ensuring that deaf and hard of children are kindergarten ready? Hi, I'm Chrissy. I'm wearing a dark blue shirt. I have my hair back. I have glasses, and I'm not wearing any jewelry. And you can see the back of my office as a background. So I'm happy to respond to that question. I have quite a bit I'm going to say. So parents of a deaf child, they have a family journey that is unique to them. I'll explain why a family's language support is critical for a deaf child. Most deaf or even hard of hearing children are born to hearing families. And that's a figure that's about 95%, very large. So this is a first deaf person families that maybe have ever been met. And parents often do not know what to do. They don't know about the risks associated with deafness and how the focus should really be on language. From the medical provider's view, NTEIS providers, a family meets during the first few days, then weeks after the newborn hearing screening, or a more formal diagnosis of deafness has been made. The family is provided with information on amplification, assistive technologies. Families are not given any information on language development as it pertains to deaf children. So it requires that parents have to actively seek that information for themselves before they can even understand the full picture and where one really needs to focus. Families want to provide every opportunity to thrive, just like other hearing children. So one invaluable resource is the TSD Deaf Mentor Program, Parent Advisor Program. And that program provides regular language evaluations in both ASL and English because language is language. And then every 6 months, the DM and PA professionals provide ASL and English language assessments and track the progress. It helps everyone understand the child's milestones and areas that are needed for any kind of additional support. These evaluations give families more than just progress reports. They provide confidence and data. When the child's IFSP and IEP meetings occur, the parent is not just having to sit there and listen. The parent is a driver of the conversation. Armed with comprehensive information about their child's language skills. The goal is to ensure that the deaf child is at or above grade level. I've met and I've heard from other families and I've connected to that they did not have a good experience, or they found out much later that their child was behind on language development. Those parents can feel very isolated and frustrated. So the goal is simple. Every deaf child must have access to comprehensive language support and every family to understand the importance of language. No family should have to find out at the start of kindergarten that their child is already behind. Thank you. Thank you, Chrissy. Jenny's up now with the next question. How does Lead K clear up misunderstandings about equality and acquisition? For example, ASL, English, spoken English, or written bilingualism. How does Lead K manage to clear up those potential misunderstandings? Lead K advocates for each state that each state create a statewide comprehensive system for language evaluation. And these evaluations would start immediately after identification. And the evaluations would be consistent and regularly administered. And the data would be reported to the family. The family then decides to share with whom they want. They can share that information with the child's team. Evaluations are designed specifically for deaf children. So each language is evaluated. That would be ASL, that would be English, spoken English. Currently, the majority of evaluations used for early intervention and the school systems, and regardless of their private schools or homeschools, are evaluations designed for hearing children. And then they're accommodated to meet the needs of deaf children. Evaluations will also be administered by experts with specialized training. These experts would be fluent in ASL. They would be bilingual and fluent in English and have years of experience with deaf pediatric population. Data will be collected. Data on each individual child will be used to monitor and track their progress on their specific language development milestones. Language intervention will be provided immediately. The monitoring and tracking will help the deaf child or deaf children and their families and teams to design language learning opportunities. There you go. Thank you, Jenny. And we're bringing Char back up with the question about what are some common misconceptions about sign language or bilingual approaches, and how does Lead K help correct them? Okay. The misunderstanding. So what is assistive listening devices? These make listening to spoken language, the concept that these make listening to spoken language normal. But in fact, assistive listening devices are tools and they don't provide full access to all the complexities of a spoken language. Another misconception that listening to developed spoken language for deaf children is always successful. The fact is, it takes years of intensive training. Another misconception is that learning sign language prevents a child, learning sign language prevents the child from learning to listen and speak. Fact. That contrary to predictions often cited from literature, acquisition of sign language does not harm spoken vocabulary acquisition. Not at all. There's some idea that signing will reduce spoken language skills, but that is not true. Children learning multiple languages, here's a misconception, will confuse and be prevented, and will prevent their development of foundational language. That is not true. The fact is, bilingual infants readily distinguish their two languages. They show no evidence of confusion. And you can see the citation there in the 2013 National Institutes of Health. So there you have it. Thank you, Shar. Next, we have a video from Laura, and she's gonna use spoken English. We'll bring the interpreter back up and spotlight the interpreter. But the question that Laura is answering is, what can parents and educators do if they feel a child isn't receiving appropriate language access or support? So that's the question. And we'll share the video, and then we'll add the interpreter.
There are resources and assessments that support the development of language for children with typical hearing. This is not the case for children who are deaf or hard of hearing. In fact, in the state of Tennessee, there is a severe lack of standardized assessments, resources, data, or monitoring for children who are deaf or hard of hearing. This lack of standardization throughout the state of Tennessee is one of the major contributing factors leading to inadequate language development for deaf or hard of hearing children. The reality is, no child should begin their life or their academic career without the language they need. No child should experience an automatic barrier to learning in the classroom just because the expectation for their language was less than the expectation for their peers. Children who have a strong first language foundation, this could be an ASL or any spoken language, are more successful in acquiring English proficiency because they've hit their language milestones and they have a complete language to begin with. The reason why no one seems to know about the language holes that Tennessee deaf and hard of hearing children are experiencing is due to lack of data. Language deprivation exists. That is why we're here. We have an opportunity. By establishing standardized assessments, by providing families with resources, tracking deaf and hard of hearing children's language milestones, and monitoring children to ensure that their language gaps are being addressed, we can help families in identifying these gaps and holes that can be targeted before a child enters the school system, right at the age of identification, and then continue to monitor until the age of 10, giving these children a stronger opportunity for success. On top of this, there will be cumulative data that can be shared with both families and professionals to provide targeted goal planning. It's a win for families, for schools, and most importantly, for the deaf or hard of hearing children. Let's not let language deprivation continue to be a barrier. We have the opportunity to do something about it. The question is, will we?
Twitch. Okay, another one, another one. Okay, another second video now. Release.
Hi, my name is Laura Moritz, and I'm a licensed educational interpreter who has worked in the public schools for over 24 years. I have worked from preschool through high school. I've worked with those classes. I've worked with kids who are hard of hearing with various devices to profoundly deaf, and I have seen it all. I also have the privilege of interpreting assessments. I interpret benchmarks. I interpret third grade TCAP. I get to see what kids have to know in the classroom, what language is being used, what knowledge is being expected. And so I really get a firsthand eagle eye view, or up close view rather, of what kids need to know. And really, they need to know a lot. Language is foundational. Language is how you learn. Language is how you interact with your friends. Language is how you make sense of the world around you. It's how you form your ideas. And it's how you show what you know through assessments. And so if a child comes into school without a complete language foundation, spoken, sign, foreign language, if there is an incomplete language foundation, that child struggles. I've seen it time and time again where a child will come into the school system who is language deprived. And I've seen everybody works very hard to make sure the child is equipped. But if a child from a young age, if this is not addressed, and they come into the schools with an incomplete language, it makes it very difficult to really acquire all the information and all the learning, and to perform on assessments to show what you're learning if you do not have that complete language foundation. And once you start struggling with building that language, having those holes, it continues through the third grade assessment. So really, the time to address language is before preschool, because we know preschool is what kindergarten used to be, and kindergarten is what first grade used to be. The expectations and standards are high for our kids. So the sooner we can address language and build a strong foundation for deaf kids, then there is no reason that deaf children, deaf and hard of hearing children, cannot perform at the same level as their hearing peers. So what I have witnessed is children with a more complete language foundation tend to do better on assessments, benchmarks, participate in the classroom because of that language. Children who struggle and have more holes in their language really struggle when it comes time for those assessments, those peer interactions, participating in the classroom, gaining new knowledge, and being able to really play with what they're learning. So really what it comes down to, language is key.
Thank you, Angela, for interpreting that. Next, we have Shar again. And the question for Shar is, who are the legislators who are sponsoring this bill as it goes through the legislative review? and processes. Can you address that, Shar? I can tell you who. We have two. One is Representative Alexander, and that representative is from Johnson City, which is District 7. And then we have Senator Massey, who is from Knoxville, and that is District 6. And they are supporting the bill. And I want to add that since July of 2024, the Tennessee Lead K, the core stakeholders have been in communication with all the legislators on the educational committee and those that support the TSD Deaf Mentor and Parent Advisor Program. The response that we've received from the legislators has been very positive and supportive of the creation of the data system and the language assessment program for the deaf and hard of hearing children from birth to 10. Thank you, Char. And Chrissy, you're up next for the next question. How does House Bill 1957 help develop Lead K goals here in Tennessee? Good question. I'm happy to answer that. I'm going to go through quite a list. So first, there's a link to the House Bill 1957. You can read it yourself, and we can distribute that link. But part of it is creating an advisory council of experts to identify and design a system of language evaluation for children, deaf and hard of hearing children of age 0 to 10. And then the advisory council will be made up of deaf, hard of hearing, deaf blind, hearing professionals, and family members. Also, the council is required to be operational by August 31st, 2026. The Commissioner of Health is required to call the first meeting of this advisory council no later than September 15th, 2026. This advisory council will prepare a report of its findings and submit that to the legislative body or the governor no later than July 1st of 2029. Get my other page here. And then I'm going to give you an overview of what the specific tasks are for that council. One is to identify specific numbers of deaf and hard of hearing children from age 0 to 10 in the state of Tennessee with audiological diagnosis without the child's assistive listening devices that might be worn during a test. They're going to identify, each child will be given a code of privacy for that. They also identify race, gender, and zip code of those children. They'll identify deaf and hard of hearing children with specific language assessments, identify and recommend fully accessible assessment practices for deaf children. They'll recommend specific qualifications for the individual to administer that assessment. They'll recommend specific language criteria for deaf language development milestones. That's for ASL and English. They will recommend a design and criteria for a data system that tracks children. And they recommend a design to identify specific language gaps and notice for immediate intervention. They'll recommend protocols for reporting data to families and to professionals, and they'll recommend protocols for annual data reporting systems. And they'll recommend a parent resource guide. Thank you. That's a lot. Thank you, Chrissy. And our next panelist is Tracy. And the question to Tracy is, what happens now with legislation as it progresses toward becoming a reality? And how can the public get involved?
Hi, I'm Tracy Duncan. I'm a white woman wearing a blue sweater. I have brown hair and I have a gray background. Thank you very much for asking that question, because Tennessee is filled with stakeholders and we need as many possible stakeholders now advocating and communicating their desires to their Congress, to their legislators. So recently, on February the 2nd, Senator Massey sponsored the bill in partnership with Representative Alexander. So as Shar said, these two individuals have agreed to move this bill forward through a long journey. The House bill number is 1957, and the Senate bill is SB 2357. These bills are going to be going through multiple revisions over the course of the next 4 months. In Tennessee, the legislative session starts in January and ends in April. So it's going to go to a lot of committees. A lot of legislators are going to be wanting to know more about this bill before they sign off on it and it becomes a law. So having a bill does not mean it's a law. But our hopes are that the revisions are not huge, maybe small. Both Representative Alexander and Senator Massey have expressed very optimistic expectations for this bill to move forward. One thing that legislators like is having data. So that's the goal for this advisory committee, to provide the data or proof that this system needs to be set up so that all Tennessee's children can be successful and become happy, well-adjusted, and successful adults. So as we've been made aware, since June 2024, this group of core stakeholders have been very active. Several things have been developed by this core group, and we want to make that available to individuals who are interested. This legislative toolkit that would be available to you upon request, or will be hopefully attached to our Facebook page, and possibly in print, depending on the circumstances. The legislative toolkit has 5 folders. Briefly, there's just getting started. Most people do not have lots of experience communicating with their legislators in their home office or when they're in Nashville for their session. So how do you get started? The second folder is how to communicate with your legislator. Mailing letters, making phone calls, email, going for an in-person visit. So folder 3 is how to visit, how to prepare to visit that legislator. The fourth folder contains the directory of the legislators. Perhaps you may have visited the Tennessee General Assembly website. It's okay, but it's hard to navigate. There's a lot of information that you have to search for. And sometimes we don't know what to look for. So folder 4 will have a spreadsheet of the legislators, key legislators, who will be identified by their name, their contact information, what part of the education committee they're on, just little details, cities, so that you can go one place, go to a spreadsheet, and you can search and find your legislator, your senator, your representative. Some places have more. And the fifth folder basically has some resources that you may want to read. So before you actually go for a visit or write or communicate with your legislator, you can read about information that will help you be informed. One document we prepared is the 5 most frequently asked questions by legislators when we went to visit that past 18 months. So we have answers. So that's a document that could be very helpful when you choose to communicate with your legislator. Between now and when the legislative toolkit is in your hands, we encourage all Tennesseans to communicate with your legislator in their home office or in Nashville to let them know about your language journey. If you are a parent of a child with hearing concerns, you've been on a language journey with that child. If you're a deaf, hard of hearing, deaf-blind individual, you've had a unique language learning journey. And professionals have a unique language learning journey. For example, I know how to use American Sign Language, but my native language is English, and I will continue to learn ASL for the rest of my life. I am not a child of deaf adults or a CODA. So I've had a language learning journey. It's important to always stay on message when communicating with legislators. We all use different words or share different stories, but the most important part is staying on track and not confusing the legislators. The truth is, legislators do not know about young children, early childhood, birth. They don't know about that. They don't know about deafness. They don't know about education of the deaf. If they do know something, they might be confused or believe a lot of myths. So it's really important to always be respectful and understand that you are the first person that probably is bringing this information to a legislator, and to make it very clear and respectful, and that you are straight on your message. Don't mix things up. So the simple ask is, we in Tennessee need to create a language evaluation system from birth to school age in children who are recognized as deaf, hard of hearing, deaf-blind, unilateral hearing loss, auditory processing issues, having aphasia. We need to make sure that we recognize language learning for all children who are challenged in a typical setting. The general school system is always focused on an auditory language. We need to make sure that the school system, the state recognizes that there's an important visual centric ASL and English and bilingual opportunities to ensure children's learning. So we will keep you informed from the small group we have. We have a Facebook page. I hope you'll look at it, but it's very simple for you to go to the Tennessee General Assembly website, search under bills, and then you can identify the bills by HB 1957 or SB 2357. You can pin it to your website. It will, pin it to your computer, and then the website will send you automatic updates. So thank you very much for asking that question.
Thank you, Tracy.